Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Baby shark do 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 do. Hi, I'm Andre with a review for you. Better Reviews. I'm reviewing Terminator Dark Fate. I'm gonna keep this as spoiler free as possible, which is gonna be tough because there's a lot of spoilerage in this movie. Don't read internet articles though, because you might find out. So Terminator Dark Fate is the latest in the Terminator very confusing storyline franchise. We got a new Terminator coming back to take out this new girl, Danny, so she has to be protected. So an enhanced soldier shows up from the future into the past to protect her. And who else to also help than Linda Hamilton herself as Sarah Connor. And there's also another person that might pop up that they keep trying to act in the movie like, you don't know who else is going to show up to help out. And it's like, he's on the freaking poster. The action sequences are a blast. I really enjoyed all the action in this, all the stuff with the fighting sequences, the Terminator stuff. There's some great action sequences in the beginning of this movie, and there's just all kinds of insane action sequences that happen towards the end of this movie. The middle of the movie doesn't have as much action going on. That's when they start to get a little exposition heavy, even having a couple of flashbacks, or I guess they would be technically flash forwards if they're showing stuff from the future. Like I said, man, this timeline, oh my God. Yes, a couple of times the action sequences do get a little bit into overkill, and particularly because you're dealing with Terminators, there's a couple of times where it looks realistic and a couple of times where it's definitely CGI. Like someone will be running and they look real and then they do a jump and you're like, that's a cartoon! But you're propped up in your seat, got your popcorn in your hand and you're watching all this stuff go down. It's fun stuff. There's some great lines in this. There's some comedic lines in this. Linda Hamilton returning as Sarah Connor. Genius move, so awesome. Why has this not happened before? We could have probably saved ourselves a couple of Terminator movies if you would have just done this like earlier. But yeah, man, Linda Hamilton is so good in this. Her attitude in this, the way that she fights in this, and just everything about her. It's such a throwback to how she was in Terminator 2. She was always such a badass in that movie, and it continues in this movie. And they have this new character, this enhanced soldier named Grace, played by Mackenzie Davis. She's also really cool too. Little one note, but a good note. And they're protecting this girl, Danny, who's played by Natalia Reyes. I feel like the movie was trying to do that thing of like, she's also a strong fighting type, but we're gonna build her to become that, whereas the other characters were already there. There are times where I wish they would have maybe built it up a little bit faster because they're just kind of mostly doing the protection story with her, kind of the same way they did with John Connor back in the day. But she did a great job, and I'm guessing if they do a sequel to this, depending on how the box office goes, it'll be interesting to see what happens with her character in the next go round. I don't know how people are gonna feel about Rev 9. I dug him. I actually thought he was really cool. I just love the demeanor of him. He was just so stoic all the time. And then whenever he actually had to talk, he would always make these like voices to make himself seem like, I'm a person, I'm a human, I got an accent, so I'm just an average Joe. And they do something really cool with the Rev 9, and I hope this is not spoiling too much, but he's got the skeleton body that you know from the Terminators, but he also has kind of like the goo thing going on with Terminator 2, and sometimes they can be together, and sometimes they don't have to be together, so that's really neat. I really enjoyed that. He's no Robert Patrick, but he's holding his own. Yes, it should come to no surprise that Arnold is also back, and he's great. He's not in a lot of the movie. You don't really catch up with him till later on in the film, but when he's there, he does his usual Terminator shtick. He's got some one-liners, they got the action there. You know, obviously a little bit older, so, you know, not doing as much as he used to do back in the day, but it was cool to see him there. Because of a certain dynamic that they do in this movie with him and with Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton's character, it makes for a very interesting amount of dialogue. When the story is dealing with the basic premise, you know, a Terminator's there, gotta be stopped. Sarah Connor doesn't only not like this Terminator, but any Terminator. They all gotta go. Protecting Danny, all this kind of stuff. When it's all about the story that we are here to see, the movie works really well. But because it's part of the Terminator franchise, that's when the movie gets a little convoluted and wonky. They have to try so hard to either change certain things, retcon certain things. There is a big thing that this movie does, and it's gonna happen pretty early in the movie, but there is something that this movie does where I was like, whoa, because it's not just a flat out like, oh, we changing a little thing here and there to make this work. It's straight up like a, hey, you remember this thing from the past movies? Forget all that. Terminator Genisys had the exact same issue. It's just so weird to watch a franchise that constantly has to change its past in order to make new movies. Like when you think about Jurassic World movies or the Star Wars movies, no matter what you think about them positively or negatively, you can at least say that they are making new stories while still respecting and honoring and saying the past is the past and it is important. Terminator seems like what every single time it makes a new movie, it goes, hey, something that you thought was important in the past, not anymore. And this time they just went all out. Now it makes sense in the matter of the story, but whew, I'm not a hardcore Terminator person, but if you are, something gonna hurt you. You are not gonna be pleased with something in this film. You know what? Maybe I need to go watch Terminator 2 again. It's been a while. And look, I really have no problem with deciding to make some changes to the past movies to do something new. But the thing about this movie is it goes through so much trouble to create a new timeline to basically have the exact same things happen in that timeline that happened in previous timelines. Why go through all the trouble to make a brand new path that still ends up with somebody made some Terminators? You mean to tell me that in every alternate future, there's still somebody gonna make some Terminators? At this point, I just want Dr. Strange to show up and be like, you know, there's 5,748,312 different futures, alternative futures, but they all got Terminators in it, no matter what you do, except for one. Can you find it? But gosh darn it, when they stop trying to explain this franchise and just have the action going on, it's just so damn fun. Every time I saw an explosion, every time I saw that Terminator change in shape and form, or I see that red eye, or I hear that dun 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 dun, I'm just like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So forget the timeline. Don't try to connect this shit. It's just whenever they try to explain this story. How can we make Terminator films without caring about the story? What can we do? How can we make this happen? Because that's what you need to do. So on the Care Bear scale, I was struggling with this one. Funshine, I feel like I really had a good time. I did have fun with that action. I did have fun with that excitement. All the spectacle in it. It's so much fun. Those issues, I just can't stop thinking about them. The convoluted way that this franchise has gone, which leads to some of the problems in this movie. I guess it's just because we've had so many attempts at redoing Terminator for the last few movies, and I can't help but feel like the only options you have now at this point is to do a direct sequel to this movie or just quit. Because this movie feels like forget Genesis and Salvation, especially Terminator 2. Now we're doing this. I can't have another movie being like forget Dark Fate. Now let's do this. No, move forward, or you just need to do a complete reboot from scratch, do something brand new. Or quit. Are you going to go see Terminator Dark Fate? Or if you did see it, let me know what you thought about it. And do you want me to do I need to explain / spoiler talk about this movie, because oh my gosh, there's a thing that this movie does. I'm like, wow. If you're new here, please subscribe to this channel and check out all the other videos that I make. I love you like a play cousin. I'm Audi 5000. Hasta la vista, baby.